Good morning, everybody. I just had some breakfast. So, anyways, I received an email this morning around 2:30, and they asked me why don't I get my juice tested? And they didn't really say too much in the context because I have said that I got my juice tested in a food lab, and it showed to have 13 million colony forming units. But that wasn't the context I'm sure this person was coming from. Um, they want to know why it is that I haven't had my juice tested to back up the claims that I've made out there. And I'll tell you why it will never happen. Okay. And not because I'm trying to avoid, and not because like I can't. It's that the industry in biotech would not do that. It wouldn't matter what kind of money I had. It wouldn't matter if it was billions of dollars that I had available to me and then gave it to the labs out there to go test all of that. No. When they come up with the new technologically advanced medicine type of stuff, hey Faved, they are showing you that they can grow stem cells in a lab. They are showing you they can grow certain types of organs or certain types of things in a lab. Now, why would they do it in a lab? Because in a lab, they're not, we don't know this, but I don't assume they are cloning people in biotech. Now, I'm sure we hear stories that they do. But as far as growing organs and limbs, they're doing stem cells because it's not painful, it's not attached to anybody's body, it's not it's not like, it's not crossing any ethical lines. Now, some people might say that stem cells are crossing ethical lines. Some people say that growing, organs in a lab potentially might be. That's why the whole organ trade market is so lucrative, because when people have organs that fail because they're not taking care of them, or they had a predisposition from mutations, they want to get an organ that would match their blood type. And so then that's what the transplant industry is for, okay? Because the whole system, the whole industry is predicated around not inducing pain on the population in any way, shape, or form, which is very honorable because they're not into torture of sorts, I guess, because people have, obviously, if a person is in pain and it's not being taken care of and there's no access to a cure, then that's the type of torture. But we have so many cures on the market, so many drugs which are cures, which mitigate pain, that you guys have so much available to you if you are in pain. Okay? So nobody's hiding the cures. So when you're looking at Jilly Juice and you're wondering why I didn't get it tested in a lab to then back up my claims of regrowing organs and limbs and reversing all of these crazy diseases, and why I'm not going to go and get it tested, it's not because I can't afford it. The industry wouldn't do it because but my whole premise of this whole protocol is that pain is healing, okay? And that all the different drugs are predicated and are supposed to be inhibiting the prostaglandin hormone, which is the hormone that aids in the healing process, which gives you the pain sensation. So there's no lab in the world, no company in the world that's going to go and take somebody in the population, no matter how much they say, okay, we'll pay you this, we'll pay you that, and say, hey, we're going to try and take Jilly Juice and regrow your limb, because the pain would be excruciating. Now, I guess if the person is aware and that they have access to certain painkillers to sort of mitigate the pain a little bit, but it would take a long, long time for a person in a lab setting, to go and regrow an organ. Okay? Sometimes things such as that could take a year, it could take 2 years, and that would be something that would have to happen in kind of like an outpatient type of setting, but still it's painful. Okay? And there is the Hippocratic oath when you're a doctor, is that do no harm. What does harm mean? It means don't inflict pain on patients who are not prepared to deal with it. So if a person isn't adequately prepared to deal with pain, they're not going to inflict pain upon a person. Okay? So that's why Jilly Juice is a very personal journey, because you're the one that's going to be dealing with how much pain or how little pain you choose to deal with based upon your lifestyle. So Jilly Juice, and that's why I wouldn't fit, that's why I couldn't do the advertising the way I could. I mean, even though I said the possibility, but still, when it comes to advertising health and wellness, it's for immediate results using specific, very aggressive antibiotics to deal with somebody's targeted condition. So that's why I can't mention Down syndrome or autism or any of those, because those are very specific conditions that have very specific targeted type of protocols that have to be tested by the FDA. J-Juice, it's like you take J-Juice and the body decides. So when someone says, oh yeah, I'm going to take J-Juice for this specific condition, and they have an expectation that it's going to get reversed in like tomorrow, it's going to be an unmet expectation. So there's no way that you can guarantee that under a person's expectation that their specific condition is going to get reversed or even dealt with, because maybe the person isn't taking care of themselves and it's an uncontrolled circumstance. Maybe they don't do the J-Juice as much as they should. Maybe who knows? It's an uncontrolled circumstance. But when you put somebody in a controlled circumstance with J-Juice, it would be torturous for them. So that's why this is a personal journey. If someone who is missing an arm or a leg decides to do J-Juice, and they'll do it at the pace that is comfortable for them, it could be like 3 or 4 years. Or some, they're like, okay, I'm die hard, I'm going to do J-Juice and I'll deal with the pain. It could be as little as a year. I don't know. And believe me, anyone that would take this on and then decide to come out, well, they would have to have a bunch of people know who they are. And then they do J-Juice. Then they got to deal with their everyday. How would their life be on J-Juice, missing a limb, missing a digit, missing whatever, and dealing with the pain? Okay, but would they come out publicly, knowing the ridicule out there, knowing the attacks? And you're seeing the attacks on Jillian. I mean, imagine somebody saying, yeah, I regrowed my limb. They would think that this person was paid by me. They would think that they were like set up. I'm like part of the New World Order, and it is a government plant to go and get everybody all like, who knows what story someone would make up if a person actually came out and said, I regrew my limb or organ. Okay, I mean, we already see people regrowing organs and missing body parts, or missing I guess organs, because I mean maybe appendixes, maybe kidneys, because people have pain down there and they hadn't had pain down there in a long time and they're wondering why. But what do? First, they go and find, the nearest antibiotic to deal with the pain, stops the healing. So I'm sure that people have regrowed organs. They just didn't know it. And when they had pain down there, they thought they had a relapse or something. And so they mistook that pain for something bad instead of something good. So there's I don't fit, this whole Jilly Juice does not fit in the business model of allopathic holistic. So the only test that I could have, the only test that I had to and was required to do by the government was getting it tested in a lab to test to see what bacteria were present. And guess what bacteria were present? It was lactobacilli. 13 million colony-forming units in 3 days. So imagine if you fermented the juice for like 6 months, how much would be available to a person. Okay? And so we already know that lactobacilli probiotics is a very good gut bacteria. It's what the body needs, the human body as well as animals and plants, biodiversity needs to keep the systems balanced out. It's one of the good guys. And there are bad bacteria out there, okay? Not every bacteria is bad. So when you pair up the lactobacilli, the probiotic, with the right other elements that match the elemental composition of the human body, such as pink Himalayan salt with the trace minerals, then you have the cabbage and the kale, and you know it's densely nutritious, and you have it broken down to a pre-digested state, and that is the lacto-fermentation process. Now you have bioavailable nutrition that your body doesn't have to break down. Right now, people are eating fruits and vegetables, whether it's cooked or raw, on a mutated body, and the body can't break it down as fine as the lactobacilli would do in a chemical process called lacto-fermentation, but paired with the right elements. Now, if you're going to be fermenting fruit, guess what? Even though you say, yeah, the lactobacilli neutralize the sugar, I'm sorry, but when you eat sugar, you poop sugar. It's like sugar doesn't just disappear when you add a bunch of lactobacilli in there and water and then the fruit. No, it's fermented fruit. That's what wine is fermented fruit. It's, even though it doesn't taste sweet, but it still has the sugars in there, has mycotoxins. Those mycotoxins add another antibody load because it's antigen. Toxins and pathogens and foreign objects create antibodies. And if you're not dispersing those antibodies, they agglutinate. And this is why when people drink, they have a glass of wine or they have a beer a day, it creates antibodies, it agglutinates, and then it starts messing with your organs. And that's why strokes or heart attacks are far more prevalent in those that drink alcohol a certain amount of times in the month, unless you go and counter it with the right elements. Now, I won't drink alcohol ever again, because whenever I did, I had the worst yeast infections. Well, not the worst, but it was like when my body was getting rid of the excess yeast, because that alcohol was feeding the yeast. It was always seems to be down there where my body was dealing with it. I don't know why some people are able to just like drink alcohol, do the J juice, they go to sleep, and they're fine. I'm not one of those types, so I will never ever touch alcohol ever again. And I don't even miss it. Okay? So so where I was going with that. Where I was going with that is that yeah, you're getting access to the nutrition. Okay, so it disperses all of the antibodies. And then it went into the strokes, because yeah, when you have so many antibodies just swimming around in your body, because yes, when you are taking in a countering force, which is electrolytes. Electrolytes is sodium, potassium, magnesium, chloride, and all of that. Yeah, Jennifer. That is obviously needed because we need electrolytes. What happens is that when a person is a runner, or when let's say like a runner, yeah, they're missing electrolytes because they have so much lactic acid built up. That's why they need to take electrolytes to then get rid of the lactic acid. But also too, if you heard about this one time, this is the only one time I've heard of this, where a dog was going back and forth in the lake, jumping in the lake like all day long. It was so hot, and the dog died. What did he die from? Too much water. His electrolytes were being diluted to the point to where the dog was mineral deficient and the body shut down. Now that's an extreme case, and I don't know if the dog had a predisposition or what, because a lot of dogs, go and swim the lakes, but I can only imagine that this happened that one time, and it could have been that the dog already came into the situation completely compromised anyways and was plain, and then the added extra water diluting the electrolytes then just added to his condition. So this juice has electrolytes. Okay, I mean, this has electrolytes, it has lactobacillus, it has obviously the trace minerals, it has the nutrition. It's like you're getting a major powerhouse of a drink that has everything, absolutely everything that your body needs, and what it needs to disperse and keep everything well balanced, so everything can work with each other. Now, I was looking at this article today about everyone talking about like the whole celiac disease and gluten's being totally demonized. And and so this one article was saying that it's not the gluten, it's the glyphosate. But I'm like, and then that's in the people that that's where the celiac disease comes from, is from the glyphosate. And I'm just like, not everybody gets celiac disease. So well, we know what the component is that everyone's focusing on, but what is it these people are bringing to the table to then trigger celiac disease, being exposed to a certain combination of elements? And then how would a company know? So here's the thing. You test all the celiac afflicted people, see what is present on their titer test, okay? But would that be enough to let anybody know a pattern? Well, I don't know. Is there a celiac group out there that is open to getting a titer test and sharing their results? Sometimes we as a lay person have to kind of help biotech out and conduct our own studies, and not like experimenting on ourselves, so to speak, but no, you go get your titer test, see what you would. Now, I don't know, there's so many different tests so many different types of tests to test for that you wouldn't know what test to order. Well, I'm sure there has to be a test where it would give you at least a bunch of options. And you'd have to look at the menu and see how much you're willing to pay for one. But maybe you all pick a specific, everybody that is a celiac disease afflicted person. They say, okay, we'll test for this, and this. Maybe there's like 10 things they all test for at the same time. You don't want to have 10 celiac people with different titer tests, because that would just, it wouldn't make sense. You're not comparing apples to apples. So I want every celiac person to say, okay, there's 10 specific diseases that you guys should test for. And maybe like do a combination, MMR, look at your, MMR, or look at your blood type, look at all the different main diseases out there, or the main vaccine. So like pick a certain flu strain, pick a certain MMR or measles strain, pick whatever. I don't know all the different diseases and the vaccines that are out there, but those of you that have dealt with the vaccine industry know what kind of diseases. So you all put your heads together, pick 10 diseases that you're all universally going to get tested for, and you're all celiac disease. And then you can start comparing the numbers. It wouldn't make sense to have 10 different titer test results on the same disease. You want to have the same titer test tests and get, see what the outcome is. Okay. And you can see, is there a pattern with all the people who have celiacs have a high MMR or high measles antibody? I'm just putting out there for just as an example, because I don't know. And so but what would that test tell you? What would it tell the industry? Well, it would just tell the industry that people who happen to have a predisposition to something to do with measles, well, that would be too much to put on a bottle. Okay. So then you just say, hey, but then how would you, oh God, then I guess you don't use Roundup at all, or whatever it is that's contaminating the wheat. You don't use it at all, but then how would you deal with extra wheat? It's going to make your wheat more expensive, because you're bringing in now manual labor to go and pick the weeds. What other herbicide would you use that would do the same thing? I'm sure they tested different types. Maybe they're doing more tests to see another combination of elements, but to get another combination of elements because you don't want to trigger celiac in certain people. Well, then you have another combination of elements that's going to trigger lupus in another set of population with different combinations of diseases. It's like the industry can't win for losing. So it's going to be this whack-a-mole game of whack-a-mole. Okay, well, we won't put this herbicide here because it's going to trigger the celiac population because of all the other combination of disease they have. So we'll do another combination of an herbicide and put it out there and see what happens. And all of a sudden you see all these different diseases. Okay, now you have people with another disease that they're going to name it, and it's going to be related to the wheat or something. And then lo and behold, and they're not going to put warning labels on the wheat to say, okay, this might cause celiac disease. I mean, see, and that's where it becomes ridiculously crazy. Like, what the biotech cannot win for losing. Mass agriculture cannot win for losing. But what's the alternative? You grow organic, then guess what? There's no way to control and regulate the organic industry when you have some guy down the street, the only organic garden in the area, that is going to gouge their customers because they can. First of all, it's very expensive to mass produce organic food for 50,000 people. I mean, you have to look at how this is going to translate in the population. When you have 7 billion people, and just in some states alone, you have like 7 or 8 million people. How many organic gardens do you think are going to be able to produce that much food to be able to fulfill processed food for some people? Not everyone's going to eat organic, and fulfill all their requirements for restaurants, for the packaged foods, for your vegans and vegetarians, for the animals that you're making dog and cat food for. I mean, it's ridiculous. So biotech isn't the enemy, it's really the individual enemy. The individual is the enemy. And not really. The individual is responsible for what it is they bring to the table. And so this is why we really can't demonize biotech, because every single time they move one direction, they're going to afflict another type of population because everyone brings different things to the table. So that is something why it is that my juice cannot be tested in a universal way in a lab, because everybody brings different things to the table. And there is doctors are not trying to do any harm. Now, by saying that Jilly Juice would do harm, no, it's the pain. The whole point of the industry is to mitigate pain. That's why they have pain research. That's why they're trying to find drugs and trying to figure out why this one woman who doesn't have her prostaglandin hormone triggered at all whatsoever, so she feels no pain at all. That's why they're trying to figure out what set of mutations does she have that they can go and translate into some kind of protocol to then give to people who are in constant pain. Because yeah, when you're in constant pain, your body is trying to heal. You have not taken care of your body for such a long time. And when you're in constant pain, it's the body saying, I'm desperate to heal. I'm trying so bad. You're not giving me what I need. You keep giving me poison. So I'm going to continue to try to heal until you finally poison me to death where you feel no pain. And, so the lady that I was looking at the picture in the article, she looked aged. So yeah, you can deal with being pain-free, but you'll have a shelf life. If you're not taking in strategic nutrition to where you're reversing the aging process in whatever way you think is reversing the aging process, and you're pain-free and you're not reversing the aging process, you will have a shelf life. So her being in no pain and a person being in pain, not taking in strategic nutrition, well, they're both have a shelf life. One's going to obviously take more in antibiotics, create more antibodies, so it may increase the mortality rate. Maybe the lady that has no pain maybe relatively takes care of her body relatively well, so her prostaglandin hormone doesn't really working, so she can't feel things breaking down, but maybe other things are going on to where she's not rapidly aging, but she's still aging. So it even depends upon if you have one hormone that's not working, that's a pain hormone, but other systems are working relatively okay based upon your lifestyle. Maybe she doesn't rapidly decay and trigger all the different cancer disease and chronic illness. I don't know. It depends, because that's one hormone out of like thousands and thousands that is turned off, but she may have really good other systems that are keeping her alive relatively, okay. And the only way she's going to know how to fix something is if she actually sees it, because she can't feel it. So if you can't feel pain, then the only way you're going to know something is wrong is when you start seeing blisters form on your body. And that's the only way she would know to take care of something. See, that's a scary thing when we find something that says, okay, you will have no pain at all. And that's when you won't know. And then one day, bam, you're dead because you never had your idiot lights come up on your dashboard. That's what I look at pain is when you look at your dashboard and you see the oil light turn on, you see the check engine light turn on, you see the little just the lights. I don't know all the lights, okay? But I know two of them. It's the oil gauge and the gas gauge and the check engine light. And I've dealt with all three of them at some point in my life. And the window washer fluid, okay? So that's what I see that pain is your dashboard, the idiot lights. So J juice will never ever be tested in the context of regrowing limbs and organs because pain's involved. And if the subject of a test of an experiment isn't aware that pain is involved as far as regrowing a limb or an organ or anything else, then that would be construed as torture in the medical industry, and that would violate the Hippocratic Oath in the medical holistic industry, and that is not their purview. And so I was reading this, I think it was a Newsweek article on me from a year ago. Finally read it. I mean, I'm looking at all the articles that were written about me, and you know, they were really surprised. Well, it wasn't Newsweek, it was somebody else. Oh, they were really surprised how fast the group that I had, I think it was BuzzFeed, how fast the Jilly Juice group grew, and the amount of popularity, notoriety, the amount of interest that it gained and sustained this last couple years. And I'm not a celebrity. No, I'm not a celebrity. But I fully understand the patterns that are out there, that pain is healing. And, my juice is a probiotic. It was tested in a lab. And so this is something, it's going to be an option. But I'm surprised that these people that are mentioning, like how fast I grew, and then that I'm going to go to jail or something. And these are like university professors who were quoted in some of these articles are saying, oh yeah, she's making all these claims, which I completely understand. But as far as what was in the juice, okay, so back then it wasn't tested when some of these articles came out, but then it was, and it was submitted to the OAG, and I hadn't heard anything since. And so I'm kind of like interested in why, aside from someone just bashing me because they think I'm just stupid and they don't agree with this and they want to keep tying me to Bruce Wilmot's death, I understand that whole thing. That'll be dealt with. But as far as just J juice in general and about all the different claims, I haven't heard a word from the real mainstream media. Like a word at all. Nothing. Okay? And it's really kind of interesting. It's like, not to say that they just capitalized on all of the controversy back then. No, it's like no other word, because you know what? I think they know that I'm correct. When they're touting all of these probiotic type of products that are on TV, saying, oh yes, you have 1 million good bacteria and millions and trillions in your gut, and take this drink, from some mainstream brand, and it has 12 or 50 strains of this or that. And they know that this is correct. Yeah, this isn't like the Jilly Juice. No one, if I were to bottle it, I would never bottle J juice because it's not appetizing. You can never go and mass produce Jilly Juice, ever. You can never mass produce it, so it would never be subject to FDA standards, for one. Okay, that's why this is not FDA regulated, because it's not a mass produced product sold to the public with a specific intention. So it's like, so it's not mass produced. I'm not selling this. It doesn't taste good. So you have to, and you can't, and it's not, yeah, I'm not going to go, like even just right now with me personally, I don't sell it to anybody. I mean, yeah, people say, hey, Jillian, could you make it for me and I'll just buy it from you? No, because that would be a dependency type of thing. What would happen if I happened to go somewhere or I moved, or no, If I'm going to sell anything, it would be like out of my house to my local people. But then that wouldn't make sense. They can make it themselves. It wouldn't make sense. And to sell it and put it in like in a mail where no, and then it goes through all the different scanners and all that. That doesn't make sense either. And I know people back earlier when this was happening, when we first started doing this, there were some people were selling it for like $10 a bottle, and I'm like, that just, to me, ethically, that shouldn't be right. You should not sell J juice to even your friends. You should never sell J juice to even your friends. If you want to make it for them as a starter, great. But to sell it to somebody, that doesn't make sense. Because they have to first understand what it is they're getting into, because it doesn't taste good for one. Number two, you're going to have pain. Number three, this is going to be a long ass process that you can't predict what may come up during the process. Not because the J juice is doing anything to you. It's that you actually have to deal with the pain that's all the mutations in your body that you may not fully understand or even aware that you even had those issues. Okay? So J juice will never ever fit in the model of the industry, in the model of the commercial market, in the model of any model that people are so familiar with that want me to fit in that model. J juice will never fit in that model. Ever, 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 ever. So don't even bother asking me, why don't you get it tested by a lab to back up your claims? Because pains involved and the industry will not torture their subjects if they're not aware that pain's involved. Because pain can be torture to some people. That's why with J juice, you do it at the pace that is good for you. And you have to drink water. You have to understand, and you have to do it at your own pace. I did say a gallon a day, but you work your way up to that if you want. Some people can, some people can't. Not everybody can do a gallon a day, and it may be like for a very short amount of time. I can't tell you how much to drink. So that's why, the reason why I said a gallon a day was because that was going to the extreme for those that can afford the time, and maybe they're 250 pounds. And so they need a lot more than a person that's like 20 pounds. But because your body will have you go at a specific pace. You'll go at a specific pace. If you truly want to work up to a gallon a day, then you'll go very, very slowly. Okay? And so you're going to have to really figure it out for yourself, what's going to be a comfortable daily, weekly type of thing. And it's very hard to tell people what the ultimate is. So like with the industry where they're catering to the lowest common denominator, and they can't say individually what everyone should do because there's so many situations and lifestyles. They give you just kind of a broad number. Okay, everybody gets vaccines. We don't care what you believe in. We don't care if you're a really healthy person or not healthy person or Jewish or Christian or Amish. Everybody. If you're going to public school, if you're walking around the public and you pay taxes, you're going to get a vaccine. So, when I said a gallon a day, I'm just saying, okay, everybody, so you get the gist that you need nutrition. And you could be 250 pounds, and maybe you do need, relative to your situation. Maybe a person is on, I don't know, they have the time and they understand the protocol. And so they could potentially do that. And some people say, hey, I can't do a gallon a day. So, I'm going to do like 4 cups a day. Or I'm going to do, okay, fine. Do 4 cups a day. But if you don't see the healing that you're looking for, and you don't see, any type of results, and then, you're going to have to obviously up it, but that's going to be up to you. And so that's why it's so hard for me to really give anybody a universally pat answer that's going to work for them. So I'd rather err on the more side, because you can't overdose on nutrition. Okay. But you can not get enough nutrition relative to all of your issues in your body, because we have people that are so mutated, full of pathogens, full of parasites, full of candida. Okay. That 1 cup a day or a teaspoon a day wouldn't do crap for them. So you go big or you go home, but you don't have to go that big. You don't have to do a gallon, but some do. Some have. But, you'd have to have a very, very supportive situation to do a gallon a day. But not to say that it can't be done. Of course it can, with the right situation, but it has to be a very specific situation for someone to do that. but you'd have to work your way up. It wouldn't be right off the bat. It could be in like a year or two, or not. Maybe you never do it. But that's kind of, it's like a message that I'm sending that this is a massive amount of nutrients, okay? And you cannot overdose on nutrients. Electrolytes get balanced out with water. The J juice deals with the trinity of life, which is dealing with your hormones, dealing with the antibodies, and dealing with the candida, with the yeast. Okay, the lactobacillus keeps the candida at bay. The nutrients disperse and balance your hormones, and the salt and the water, the electrolytes, and all of that will then disperse the antibodies. Okay, so it's like a trifecta, literally a trifecta. So the three things that keep you alive could also kill you are those three things: the J juice, the cabbage water and salt, the kale water and salt, pink salt. They take care of all three of those things. And, you're going to be dealing with pain. So it's funny how people want to force me into the model of the allopathic holistic, and it's not going to happen. It can't. And that's why I'm not in trouble, because I'm not dealing with antibiotics. I'm dealing with a probiotic that elicits pain. So it's kind of like I'm kind of like straddling both worlds of the medical holistic industry and then the Jilly Juice world. The medical holistic industry knows probiotics are amazing. That's why they capitalize on probiotics, and that's why that's a huge market. So J juice is full of probiotics. But then the pain, the medical holistic industry does not deal with pain. So that's why it's not going to be something that's tested, because pain's involved. So straddling both worlds where I don't fit 100% in each of the world, it means that people have to understand what's involved, and it will never fit in one specific model. It's going to kind of conjoin both the Jilly Juice model and the medical holistic industry. And then understanding how to use the role of antibiotics to kind of help manage the pain if it's so great for some of you. Okay, so it's one of those things that I've had to kind of work in my mind, why wouldn't there be a lab that would just take this? Maybe people are I can almost bet you somebody in some far off country or even on American soil is probably experimenting with Jilly Juice as we speak. Would they come out and say it? No, because it would violate the laws. You're not supposed to experiment on people as like a doctor-patient type of relationship, okay? You're not supposed to. But people do, and you'll hear in the news that, oh yes, this doctor is in jail for experimenting on this person, illegal experiments, or they're trafficking a specific live organ in their briefcase, taking it to their lab or something. So you'll see here and there articles that would then show that it happens. So if they caught one person transporting organs or doing things to unsuspecting people, then you can imagine what goes on that doesn't get caught. So now when someone does experiment with J juice, will they come out and say, well, they might, it just depends. But the hard thing is following the progress of somebody that is regrowing an arm and a leg, because we all have, not we all, but a lot of us are very skeptical of people that just rise up and say, well, this happened to me, that happened to me, I did this, I did that. They want to know who your background is. Are you a government plant? Are you some actor that's trying to convey and steer people towards a specific message? So the only way a person can be credible, really truly be credible, is if you actually saw them from point A and they already have a regular life. They have people like me. Okay, I came from a world that I wasn't doing J juice world, but I came from a world that was mainstream, went to conspiracy. So you followed my whole progress, and you can see a timeline of who I was way back in like 2008 to all the way now to 2019. Okay, but when someone who's doing J juice that wants to show the world that they can regrow a limb, well, but they don't want to do it on themselves. They want to do it on somebody else or something like that. They're not going to go and document it on a public venue to show the credibility. Okay. And so it would have to be a person who knew what was going on, that had a regular life, understood the information, was willing to stick their neck out, because anytime you do anything publicly, you are now a target. So it wouldn't matter if a person came out of the dark that did this underground, and where no one followed the progress from when he said, okay, this is my stump, I'm going to regrow it, to then now, to then, because that would be, and who knows how long it would take. I mean, they have to be on social media and record that but then even record, here's the thing too, when it comes to cinematography and film and all of that and CGI and computer graphic images and all that, you get somebody that would create a Netflix video that says, yeah, I regrew my arm on Jilly Juice. People are like, yeah, we know CGI, we know anything can be created on TV. I mean, the movies are so realistic that sometimes it looks so real that you're just like, woo, that looks like it could happen. So, you can't trust someone rising out of the dark, just making a claim as far as that they grew an arm and a leg. So that would be laughable. No one would believe that. And then a person wouldn't get on social media every single day. A regular person wouldn't get on social media every single day. Okay. So, and put themselves out there. So it would be but then even if they didn't go on social media and they were just at home doing it and their loved ones were watching it, and let's say they recorded it on a camcorder, well, even then people would be skeptical, but they wouldn't put themselves out there to then be a target for ridicule for any doubters or non-believers or whatever. And so it's never going to be something you're going to see that's going to be backed up by any one person that's going to, they would have to really truly be like a billionaire or a millionaire and could afford to take the financial hit if they were in a job. Because anyone that is a regular person out there has a job, has a reputation, has family and friends, lives in a neighborhood, as soon as they come out that they grew an arm with J Juice, that life is over. So it's going to be something that hopefully we'll see down the road. People will start coming out with just the regular diseases that they said they reversed. Okay. And you see stuff come in and out through my testimonies that I've given anonymously from people who don't want to have their names out there. But what the proof is going to be is watching me. And I'm on social media pretty much every single day. I do Facebook Lives every single day. So if I'm doing the same thing every single day, I haven't aged a bit in the last 10, 15 years. So that's why it's going to take time for this to take traction. I'm working with the right elements. I don't fit in the mitigate pain model of the industry. So that's never going to ever kind of marry itself as far as testing. So now it's looking at the people that are on J Juice, like Kevin, like myself, like Bridget, like Christina Morris, like Cindy Budd, okay, like Lillian, like all the people that are that you've been watching, that I've been grabbed, like Masa, that I've been talking to a lot, that really believe in this stuff. And you watch them change from a certain aesthetic look. And you've seen some of my pictures, my before and after pictures, but you watch them change and then maintain. There isn't a degradation and there isn't an aging type of process, which is the same thing. Degradation is aging. But I'm talking about when you get older, it seems like it's going up, but not like it's any time that you upset the homeostasis. So you're maintaining status quo. Anytime there's a fluctuation is when there's a mutation. Okay. So that's why it's important to never allow your mutations to compound on each other, because then that's when things get really out of whack. So that's why I've been saying that reproduction comes from mutations, and that's why we have all these new diseases, because we have the diseases and pathogens and bacteria that have never been kept at bay, and you have all these antibodies that are circulating and agglutinating, and they mutate into new diseases. and on new biochemistry or biochemistries that have different sets of compound elements, different, hormone type of stuff. So that's the only way that I'm going to be able to prove to anybody that at least reversing the aging process is going to be myself just maintaining. And it could be 10 years because they say, oh yeah, she's Asian. Asian people really have inherently good skin. They don't ever age until one day they wake up and they look like they're 90, 100 in the Matrix, to where the wrinkles happen and gray hair and all of that. So, I mean, I'm 45 years old, okay? And there are 45-year-olds that look really good because they get facials. They have really good estheticians. They have plastic surgery. They can afford all those different creams and beauty things on the market. So, being 45 right now is really not revolutionary to anybody who's used to seeing Hollywood stars look like they're 30 and they're 50, okay? So it's going to take some time for people to actually see proof that at least reversing the aging process in me is really true. And then they might consider regrowing organs and limbs and all that. But yeah, you tell a person that had a pancreas or some kidney removed, and they start, and it says removed, and then now they're starting to feel pain again down there where their kidney was. You try to tell them that they're regrowing their kidney, they're going to tell you to shut the F up, STFU. And then guess what? They're going to take a drug, and guess what? That drug's going to stop the healing process, stop the regrowth of that organ. And yeah, there you go, a self-fulfilling prophecy. So there's no way for me to prove to anybody that you can regrow organs. The only way I could say that you can regrow organs is say, hey, you cut your arm or you get surgery, and then when you go home and you heal, hey, that's regrowing an organ because your skin is the largest organ in your body. So that's regrowing an organ. I mean, I don't know how elementary I can get it, but anytime you regrow cells, you heal from a wound, that's regrowing cells at a very minuscule level. But as far as a massive level, like a huge organ, well, that's a lot of pain. Imagine a paper cut pain. And I got paper cuts because I'm trying to file papers and stuff. It hurts like a mother. So I'm sticking my finger in the juice. Yeah, it's painful for a minute, and then the pain's gone because it healed. Well, imagine if you have to regrow an organ, the amount of pain you got to deal with compared to a paper cut. Okay? So, there's no way for me to really convince anyone that doesn't want to deal with pain that you can do all these things, because they would never, ever give it the time of day. Ever. Because they're so used to anesthetizing themselves. They're so used to taking their drugs or pills, powder supplements. They're so used to running. Like, I'm looking at this article from Business Insider. They're like, yeah, running makes you happier. Yeah, endorphins are a drug. Endorphins are a drug. So yeah, when you're in pain, oh, just go and run. Yeah, take drugs for your pain instead of dealing with it. Feed your body the right way, and then you never have to deal with that pain ever again. So, I feel vindicated. The fact that I got my juice tested, so it fit within the allopathic holistic industries model, and it's a probiotic. So it's not harmful, it's not antibiotic, it's not poison. And I'm very happy that I got that I know that pain is something that the industry doesn't deal with. So I've cornered the market in, hey, the industry out there doesn't want to deal with pain. They want to inhibit the prostaglandin hormone. Okay, so J juice doesn't inhibit any hormones. It brings the right hormones to surface, and it won't suppress the other hormones. But the only reason why the adrenaline hormone and oxytocin or other hormones that you guys are all aware of is because the body's under duress. So during the time that you're healing, you're going to have all different hormone fluctuations. You're going to feel one way some days, you can feel another way other days. It's going to be a roller coaster because your hormones are going to be fluctuating. Expect it. It's not out of the norm. It's actually very normal during this process. So when you do get everything, if you do get tests during this time, let's say you have like herpes, or let's say you have other types of diseases that you've kept at bay with like Valtrex or other types of drugs, and then you do the J juice. Well, yeah, you're going to be contagious because you're bringing the herpes to surface. You're bringing all of those different skin conditions. It could be STDs, it could be anything. You're bringing all that stuff to surface. So you could potentially be contagious at the time when you're shedding all of that stuff out of your body. Okay? And so just know that, let's say you get a test for that. Let's say you do have herpes and it is way deep inside of you, and then you do the J juice and you bring it to surface and you start seeing, signs of it. You're like, damn, I dealt with this like 10 years ago. Now it's coming to surface. Yeah, you're finally dealing with it. So you go get it tested. Yeah, there's you have herpes. See, when antibodies are kind of kept at bay, like specific diseases are kind of kept at bay, it's because your immune system is strong, your other systems are keeping those antibodies to where it's not turning into a symptom, to where it's like an outbreak type of thing or inflammation. That's great, but over time, obviously, it will come to surface. But where was I going with this? But when you get the herpes that are below the surface, and then it comes to surface, you're dealing with it. And so it's like the AIDS virus. It's like being HIV positive and then the AIDS virus. So you could be positive for a specific disease, but for it to actually come into a symptom, it's because you have all these antibodies in that specific disease agglutinating together, and then you have all those agglutination, which means that all those pathogens come together and it turns into the disease again. So you see how that works, to where, so you have enough antibodies to go attack the virus, but if the antibodies become too much in that specific virus, it'll then make another virus, like a conglomeration, like a cancer, but it's not cancer. It's now a virus again. So viruses, so all the different pathogens and viruses get attacked by the antibodies. The body creates that defense system. The antibodies goes after those pathogens, and then your other systems will then kind of keep those antibodies dispersed. But if your lifestyle then creates an environment to where those antibodies are multiplying and agglutinating, it'll then come to surface as the virus again. So with J juice, when you're doing this, you're bringing to surface all of those antibodies, and you're dealing with it and combating it, and it's coming out of your skin, and it's coming out of whatever ways that disease manifests, and you got to deal with it. So you would be like testing positive for that disease for a certain amount of time until you can get those antibodies. Now it's not destroying them with antibiotics, or with other hormone stuff. It's when or hormone stuff like drugs. No, you're using your body, but in the right context of strategic nutrition, to then deal with those mutations, because it's fixing the mutations, and then you will keep those antibodies at bay. But you have to fix the mutation. And that's what's missing in the holistic allopathic industry, because that's not their purview, is to fix the mutations. Their purview is to maintain status quo, because they know the body adapts even to your mutations. So if you are carrying the herpes virus and you saw you had an outbreak, they're going to give you some kind of drug, or say change your lifestyle to where it's not going to trigger that inflammation or trigger that disease to come up. And so that's when people change their stress levels, they change their foods, all of that to not trigger it. But then as you get older, your system, your defenses are down. The reason why I guess it does come up is because your hormones are not firing at the way that they should. You start, dealing with menopause, because the hormones, and they work in conjunction with the antibodies. The hormones kind of keep those antibodies at bay, and that's why they use hormones to manage pain and manage antibodies. And that's what the yeast manages, the sugar and the heavy metals. And so the trifecta, the trinity of life and death, is how the antibodies, candida, and hormones balance each other out. And that's why they're using those three things, manipulating those three things in the industry to help keep you stabilized. But you keep manipulating your body in a synthetic fashion, not with strategic nutrition, eventually you're going to have an imbalance in one, or actually an imbalance in all three of those things, because you're not going through the right proper channels, which is utilizing the right nutrition to allow your system to be the one to disseminate and keep the balance. Okay, so to that, yeah, so anyways, but that's what you'll find when it comes to that's what you'll find with the J juice, is you're going to see things that you thought were like disappeared forever come to surface. So that's why some people, or don't even know they have the herpes virus, or they have other types of issues that are way deep in their system. And so that's what the future triggers are, is that people are finding out what they are harboring inside their body, and it's coming to surface, and they don't know what to think about it. And it's like, hey, yeah, the J juice isn't poisonous. It's been tested. It's a probiotic. It's full of life. 13 million colony-forming units can survive in the 1 tablespoon of salt in 2 cups of water. And then what creates the lactobacillus is the nutrient element, the nutritive element, which is the cabbage and kale. Okay? And the 2 things that lactobacillus can grow from is sugar and salt. And as long as it's matched with other nutritive properties. Okay? So, and then hormones creating yeast. So I'm wondering with yogurt, how lactobacillus, because they have sugar, but what's the nutritive? There's a nutritive derivative, something in the milk that is able to create the lactobacillus acidophilus. Okay, and then the lacto fermented, and then as far as, yeah, J juice has all of this. Do we need lacto? I mean, we don't really need lactobacillus acidophilus. We have so many, because I don't think lactobacillus acidophilus is in. I don't think it might be, but it might not be. I have to check. I'll have to do some research on that. But it's all probiotic, and it's not necessary to take lactobacillus acidophilus on the J juice. Just doing the J juice and doing the protocol diet is enough. Even if you go off the diet, I'm gonna take a look and see if lactobacillus acidophilus is only in yogurt. I'm thinking it is. Lactobacillus acidophilus. Oh yeah, it is. It was found that potentially probiotic cultures L. acidophilus, B. lactis, B. animalis, and lactis reuteri, which are not traditionally used for vegetable or vegetable juice fermentation, can grow in cabbage juice, achieving significant cell counts that are particularly important for. There you go. Now I'm going to put that in there, because I knew, but I didn't. And I know that they use milk to create the acidophilus stuff, but it's like there's so you're getting 13 million. I can't imagine that wouldn't be represented. But it's one of those where you're just like, I wanted to confirm. And I see your comment says that, okay, or talk about science and limb generation. No, it's right here. I found it. But yes. Hold on a second. It is in there too. Hold on a second. There you go. So yeah, it was found in potentially probiotic cultures L. acidophilus, which not traditionally are used for vegetables or vegetable juice fermentation, can grow in cabbage juice. So there you go. Okay. So yeah, so that, and so whenever I have like just a potential, and I forget, because it's like, there's so much to this. And then when you have so many probiotics being grown, it's like there's a lot. Now, I didn't ask the lab to go and then pick out the strains and name them for me. No, they said, hey, it's too numerous to count, and then second, 13 million. So yeah, so the J Juice will give you all of that, which means that all of your situations that you're dealing with, all the mutations that you're dealing with are coming to surface, and you got to deal with it. You really do. And so yeah. So anyways, so instead of being up at 2 this morning, I actually got up at 4. Go figure. I got up at 4. My husband came home from his excursion. So it's kind of nice to where, he has an excursion with his CB radio friends, and then if I have to go out of town for whatever reason, he's here for the dog. So, our joint custody of sugar is nice. And so I got my project done over the weekend. So I'm going to relax for a minute, like I ever really can relax. But it was nice to just sleep and not be on this adrenaline. Because when I need to get a project done, for whatever reason, I'm on this major adrenaline rush. And that's why J Juice is so amazing, because if you need to pull the adrenaline out of your body to get a specific imminent project done, that you have the wherewithal to do that. And that's huge. That is huge. And then you go and relax and replenish, because when you bring up so many hormones on a constant basis, or even just a little bit, it does tax you, okay? Because you don't want to have a hormonal imbalance. Remember, 3 things: candida and antibodies and hormones. And you have too many of either one of those things, sorry. If you have too many of all of those things, then so it is all a balance. But yeah, thanks, Kevin, for your contribution as far as the bifidus. Yes, that is part of it too. But acidophilus is also in the juice. But anyways, there's nothing really else that I was planning to talk about. But I did want to respond to that email. People think that I'm psycho. They think I'm a con artist. I completely understand where they're coming from. Because if somebody told me that you can live forever, you can regrow limbs and organs and reverse the aging process 10 years ago, I've been like, you are full of crazy. You are full of crazy. Okay? And so, so I can appreciate how way out of whack this may seem in some people's world. And that is why I have the book. That is why I got the juice tested. That is why I maintain a constant presence on Facebook to show that some people may call my verbiage a word salad. Yes, I'm going to now sort of acknowledge some of the critics out there, because I do read some of the comments where they're just bashing me and they're calling me crazy names. And I looked up word salad the other day, and I'm like, some nonsensical gibberish from a schizophrenic person. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I completely understand, because to a person who's never heard or even contemplated this could even possibly be true, I would sound schizophrenic. I would sound like a con artist. I would sound like a cult leader. I would sound like anything but a regular person that goes to work every day. Okay? And I understand that. And so it's not, I don't love it, but who loves being called schizophrenic? But my words do actually relate to each other. It's not like I'm a baby just speaking gibberish. But I guess if I'm going to be using big words or trying to describe a non-political way of saying something, it would come off like a word salad. So you guys look up word salad, because that's how I've been described or characterized, because I've had to use different words to explain the same thing. And sometimes you have to, because you have to explain a different context. And so, when you have to go and explain a different context, you're going to have to find and be creative in how you use the English language. And luckily, we have the dictionary on Google. I don't even have a dictionary in my house anymore. My parents, they bought us dictionaries, and we had like a picture dictionary, back when I was a kid. And of course, the encyclopedias, but we never bought the encyclopedia. I would get that at the library, but we'd always go to bookstores. So I'm always looking at stuff at the bookstores, or we go to the library all the time. I'm reading the Congressional Record, or reading any of the popular science magazines, or reading just fiction or whatever else they have. So it's, reading has never been an issue for me. Now I don't read anything fiction. I only read science-based stuff because it's something that I'm interested in, because that's really what's my protocol is about. It's all the science behind it. Believe me, I don't think anybody in their right mind would say things that I've been saying without some kind of backup. I mean, Dr. Phil wouldn't have me on his show if I didn't have some kind of science or logic to what I was saying. How many people out there that believe in urine therapy? Okay, urine therapy. How many people out there think that they are Jesus? Okay, or not even that, forget that. How many people out there that are doing some crazy, like turpentine? And how many people have gone on the Dr. Phil show? And this is not even a medical, it's not like Dr. Oz where they would have someone who does urine therapy or something else. No, Dr. Phil had somebody on his show that was looking at living to 300 years old, potentially regrowing limbs and organs. And they politicized what I said about procreation categories. Okay, that was the sensationalistic part that brought in a lot of viewers and a lot of pissed off people at me. I understand. But I think Dr. Phil knew there was something to this, but they capitalized on the negative aspect of how it was impacting this new thought process, how it impacted and upset the homeostasis of the mainstream thought process. And that's why they brought me on the show, because they saw my science. I gave them the science that I had at the time. It wasn't even when I had all the science that I did right now in my book. I didn't have all this information, okay, in my book when I was on Dr. Phil. I got this after Dr. Phil, because I taped in March, and then I got the letter from the OAG in April, okay? And then May was when the Dr. Phil show aired. And then they actually delayed the airing because of the whole OAG. Excuse me. And so I'm thinking that their legal department probably went and contacted my government to ask, is she in trouble? Should we not air this? Is she some crazy person that did this, this, and this to this person? And is this an antibiotic or whatever? Who knows? But then finally, they finally did put a spot and aired the show. And that's what then created this craziness. So I think the mainstream knows that I am onto something, but how do you introduce accepting pain as part of a healing process? How do you introduce that to a public that's so used to anesthetizing themselves? There's no real easy way. There is no easy way. Believe me, you've seen it. Okay? But I think finally humanity is ready for something different, or it wouldn't have given me all of this platform. It wouldn't given me the wherewithal to then give you guys more information to go and research yourself. It's not like I'm giving you information where you have to take it without thinking about it or researching it. No, you guys now have my info. You can go do your own research to corroborate. Okay, so it's not like this is just a made up stuff. I'm giving you guys access to more of what you guys can do as far as research. So anyways, but it is very difficult to roll out something that is very opposite of mainstream. But I think we are basically there. And now there's one more thing I have to do, which I haven't done yet, but I will. So just stay tuned for all of that. And then we'll be on our way, okay? So I just wanted you guys to know that there's no way that Jilly Juice is going to get tested in a lab to back up the claims, because people don't want to deal with pain, and that would violate the Hippocratic Oath as far as the medical holistic industry. So understand the science, and if you don't want to deal with the pain, then don't do the protocol. If you don't want to deal with facing your mutations, then don't do the protocol. And those that are ready to finally deal with their mutations and reverse them and get off the wheel of activism and finally take care of yourself and your family, by all means, just do the protocol. And if you want to share your experiences, great. If you don't, that's fine. Enjoy your process, enjoy your life, set an example for yourself and your children and your community, and just keep staying the course, literally, because the more that people see that you're changing, and they're going to see it, so it's not going to happen right away, they will be a believer, but it's not going to happen right away. So don't get mad when people don't do it if they don't see changes in you. The only way people are going to understand where you're coming from is when they see you change your ways. They see your face change. They see your body change. They see your politics change, because your politics will change on the J Juice. And if your politics don't change on the J Juice, then you need to up your levels, because politics is part of the biggest indicators of mutations. Just so you know, politics are the biggest indicators of mutations. All right. You guys have a great day. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you later. Bye.